This is Tauri Talk, the podcast from the Scuderia Alpha Tauri Formula One team.
Check reflex, Yuki. Yes! That mega race.
And it's a third win of the season for Nyck de Vries.
Yes! Paradise, like traffic paradise. What is this one?
What the f is that? Oh, yes, thank you.
Hello and welcome back to another season of Tauri Talk, the podcast where we bring you all the behind-the-scenes action from the Alpha Tauri Formula One team. I'm Josh the admin, and today we are coming in strong for 2023, kicking off the new season with our brand new driver, Nyck de Vries. Nyck, welcome to the team, and also welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And as an added bonus, we've also brought in long-time Formula One performance coach, Pyry Salmela. Pyry, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for the invite. Pleasure to be here. And good to see you, Josh, as well.
Great to see you too. Appreciate that. Coming up on the show, we'll be hearing about Nyck's career in motorsport up until this present moment, Pyry's role in training drivers, getting some pointers from Pyry and Nyck on how to achieve your goals in 2023, and as a special treat, we'll put their mental and physical strength to the test. Let's get into it. Yeah, it's been a couple of months since we last saw each other. It was in Abu Dhabi, I believe. So I guess it's time for a bit of a catch-up talk.
Christmas party.
I wasn't there.
Oh,
I didn't
sorry.
do it. Yeah, no, I took a holiday to Australia back home.
Yeah,
Straight
you
from
go
the-
first. How was Australia?
Australia was amazing.
Did you do any surfing?
I can't surf.
You can't serve.
I'm an Aussie and I can't surf.
What can you do?
I can body surf. I can swim
Body
well.
surf, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like I can stand
Body
up and
surf's
then
good.
I'm off straight away.
Yeah.
You're tall.
I am very tall.
Yeah, so.
But no, that is on the list. I want to learn how to surf one day. But my holiday was more just relaxing, enjoying the beach, enjoying the sun, because obviously in Australia it's summer, so I escaped the winter.
For how long?
For 4.5 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right?
Whoa, that's a real holiday. What happened to your 10?
Hey, what do you mean? It's still here? When it done?
I mean, 4.5 weeks.
You know, spending time indoors, catching up with people.
Yeah.
That's my excuse.
Okay.
All right, enough about me. Let's start with you, Nyck. How did you spend your winter break?
It was great to come back home to the Netherlands. Haven't been home much in the past years, especially haven't really seen my friends through COVID, and obviously saw a couple of them, but I never really got the whole group back together. We were kind of a group of 10, and this was the first time in 3 years we were all back under the same roof. So it was really, really cool to just be one of the guys again and just catch up with everyone, have a laugh and have a crazy night. So basically spent 5 or 4 days in the Netherlands catching up with everyone, catching up with family, friends, Christmas. And it was just a great time to be with the family. And then I left to Scotland, basically between Christmas and New Year's. Spent my time there up until New Year's with another family. Just did lots of outdoor activities like hiking, shooting, horse riding.
It's not
fly
really
fishing.
ideal weather for that, though, is it? Like, did you get wet?
Yeah, we did. We even bought like outdoor wear.
Like the gumboots, we call them gumboots, but I think they call them galoshes there or something with the big.
Oh, I just learned the term Hogmanay, which basically means New Year's Eve in Scottish. But any of the other terms I haven't picked up on.
It hasn't stuck yet.
No, exactly. But we usually go skiing over Christmas, but this year I didn't really want to take the risk. But I was looking for some kind of active holiday because I enjoy that and I like the countryside. So that was a compromise, Scotland. And then basically from Scotland, I traveled straight to Dubai to meet Pyry for our pre-season prep.
Yeah, so that's what I was getting to as well, because you are now one of 20 Formula One drivers, and it's not an easy life. How much can you turn off during this off-season? Even though, you didn't race this season, but there's a lot of things to prepare for physically, mentally, but also, with the car and your engineers. How can you turn off, and how long can you turn off for during a break?
I don't think you can ever fully turn off. I think our industry, our sport is just 24/7, especially during the winter break. Actually, the team and the factory is still up and running. So during the summer break, we actually have a proper shutdown, and we aren't able to communicate, email or call, and it's a real shutdown. But during the winter, that doesn't really exist. So naturally, that kind of avoids a real shutdown. So I don't think you can actually fully shut off for a period of time. But just being home, spending time, with friends and family was for me enough to recharge and basically spend a bit of time away from the racing environment. But equally, as you touched on, there is a lot to get ready for. There is a lot of work to do, and I'm super excited to start this new chapter in my career and to live my dream. So I'm also very motivated to get on the job.
Yeah, I can imagine that excitement building up as the season comes closer. Pyry, I haven't forgotten about you, and just by looking at you, you haven't taken any rest time, have you? I mean, you're just as big as ever. I hope I'm allowed to say that.
Thank you for making my day. Very kind of you.
That's what I try and do. But yeah, so besides obviously waking up at like 6:30 and going to the gym, how did you unwind after what was one of our busiest seasons last year?
Yeah, I would say like we finished our season, the prep before the new year on 20th of December, I think.
Yeah, 20. I think you traveled to Dubai on the 20th.
Yeah, and then I just, after season, you usually just close your door and you have me time. That's exactly what you need. You need self-care. You need the routine. You need to have the good sleep, good food, social life, train well, and obviously I was super excited, Nyck, coming over to Dubai and get ready for the season. So
because you base yourself in Dubai now, right? Even though you're Finnish.
Yes, I've been touring around quite a lot, so
it's been a while.
So now we planted my mailbox to Dubai, and I'm very, very happy about it. It's been refreshing to see a little bit different lifestyle compared to what compares to European lifestyle. So that's now my third year as a resident in Dubai.
So you invited Nyck, of course, to come and to see your place, see the crib, and also do a bit of training.
Absolutely. So I thought about like for the off season, you need a place where you know your way around. You know the facilities. Also the weather helps, etc. And so I just knew that in Dubai can provide such a world-class facilities for us to get ready, and I was excited to invite Nyck to my home to see a little bit that side of the world.
So a lot of us saw on social media the two of you getting into it. And I mean getting into it by training hard. How different, Nyck, is this year's physical preparation compared to seasons in the past? I mean, we all assume it's a step up, but we saw a video of you hitting a personal best deadlift already, and that was week 3 in your training camp?
Well, it's also because I never deadlifted any PBs before. But
and then you met Pyry.
And then I met Pyry, and he never skips leg day.
Oh, mate, yeah.
It's very different. Basically, my journey up until Formula 2, I've always been quite committed on training, and I enjoyed training. Always trained with a coach. But then when I moved into Formula E, away from kind of Formula 2, Formula 1, the necessity of being fit just becomes less important, and suddenly a lot of other things become more important in life. You just prioritize according to what is most important for ultimately the performance on track. And frankly speaking, in the past 2-3 years, I've mainly been exercising how I like, been joining gym classes for fun, and I mean I've always been active and training, but never really with a routine. So basically joining Pyry has changed that massively, and I think that the importance of being physically prepared for Formula 1 is crucial. It's not important, but it's crucial. So I'm very happy that I have Pyry alongside me. He has a lot of knowledge and experience in the sport. He's been with the team for many years, and he knows exactly what it takes and requires to be ready for Formula 1. And I'm very happy that he can guide me and prepare me for that. And I fully trust him to the job. So I was going to say he takes me through the pain, but actually when we go through proper pain, we share it, which is very, very kind of him.
That's what you want a coach to do.
Yeah.
Lead by example.
Yeah, I always say, okay, I'm hard, but I'm fair, right?
I cannot deny that's untrue. Yeah, every painful interval session or every very heavy session we've had, we've definitely done together. So that's been encouraging. But the preparation has been very different to any other season prior to this, and actually I'm loving it. I love living like an athlete, putting the work, the time into our preparation, and basically just giving everything we have to achieve the best possible outcome together.
Yeah, I think you're the envy of many of thousands of people who just want to train and be the best person they can, and just have that goal in mind of like, I need to be the best I can to drive this car, essentially.
Exactly that.
I mean,
it's
including myself, I mean, that just sounds like the dream, waking up, training, eating well. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you almost had a choice, or you had a preference in trainer when you signed for the team. Am I wrong in that? Did you have a say that you wanted Pyry?
Well, I think I've been privileged enough that Pyry chose me. Pyry is a very, very well respected coach in the industry, so I think he had the privilege to decide his
the trainer chooses
destiny.
The athlete.
Yeah,
Mr. De Vries. Little Harry Potter reference for those who didn't click.
I think it was just it was kind of meant to be. It just worked out very well. Obviously, Pyry has been with Pierre for many years, and Pierre was going into a new chapter in his career. And I think on their behalf, they were also both motivated to look at a different direction in their next chapter. And for me, my first priority would always be to work with Pyry when I was joining AlphaTauri, because I knew he's been around with the team for many years, and again, he has a lot of experience and is very well respected. So that was definitely my first priority on the list.
We'll touch on a lot of things that you've just said a bit further on, but just before we move on to the...
Guys, you've been super kind to me. I'm really taken.
Feel free to jump in whatever you want and return the favor. So what does a typical day look like in the pre-season training camp? Because, okay, you mentioned you're in Dubai, weather's great, but it's not just training for an hour in the morning and going to the pool for 8 hours after it, is it?
I must say, after the pre-season, I felt a little bit sorry for you because you didn't see Dubai at all. Because
nothing. Like the first week, I didn't even exit my room. We just trained, did some work on the laptop, trained, ate, and basically did a bit more work, a bit of marketing, and that was it.
That was it. After all, like if you're really trying to hit that peak preparation, that lifestyle is quite ascetic. It's pretty much you eat, sleep, you train, you repeat.
But you did get out and do a little bit. We saw the football match.
Yeah, we won't talk about the football match.
No, we're going to make you talk about the football match.
No. No, of course we did some kind of fun activities with Yuki and Pierre, but we did one football match and one paddle match in 2.5 weeks time. But it's really true what Pyry said. You're there to get ready for the season, and you're not there to be on holiday. It was not a holiday. That was not the purpose of my visit. So apart from those two activities, we didn't see anything else from Dubai.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
he's right.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had great facilities all around, and we had some very kind friends that were helping us out and making sure that we had the best possible, environment to get ready. So
the bottom line I'm taking here is that don't come to Pyry for travel advice in Dubai because he's just going to sit down in the gym.
I think that's very fair.
Moving on. Nyck, you are now one of 20 Formula One drivers on the grid. and I'm sure you're getting pretty good at telling the story of your journey.
Yes, I've been repeating it
Yeah.
quite many times now.
Well, think of this as one last exam, because we want to know everything from junior single-seater categories to your Formula E World Championship, even to you just to getting the drive or the call to say that you're going to be a Formula One driver for 2023. So you can even start back to your karting World Championship wins. You won back-to-back karting World Champions. Am I right?
That's right. Wow, I'm actually to make my debut in Formula One. I'm one of the older guys, so I've walked quite a long journey to get here. Obviously, like every young driver, my career started in karting. Actually grew up with many of the current drivers on the grid. I feel like I'm kind of part of their generation. We had a very successful time in karting, signed with McLaren at the time. We won a European Championship and 2 consecutive World Championships, signed with McLaren. At the time, I think the timing was really good because Lewis just made his debut in Formula One, and that was obviously a very successful story. And therefore, a lot of Formula One teams were kind of interested in young drivers and to scout at a young age to kind of replicate a similar success story. So at that time, we were very successful in karting, and through our success, we were in touch with different management companies, Formula One teams, and we ended up signing with McLaren. And they kind of, basically been with me for majority of my career up until a later point in 2017-18. But the first kind of years in cars were a little bit, I'd say, tougher. I think they were still good in terms of performance, but because the expectations were so high, I probably could never do it good enough. It took a little bit longer to get up to speed. I think physically I was also quite underdeveloped. I was a late bloomer, so I was 17, but my probably body was 14. But I got going and eventually won Formula Renault, finished third in Formula Renault 3.5, which was at the time the equivalent of Formula 2. Then that championship kind of collapsed because Renault pulled out the plug from their Renault events. And then I ended up in GP3, and that was probably my toughest season in single-seater racing in 16. And at the end of that year, the management at McLaren changed, and I kind of lost their financial backing. And from that year onwards, I was really going into a tough time because basically I didn't have any way of continuing my career forward because there was no financial backing anymore, and I didn't know how to continue. So I ended up testing DTM with Audi, tested with Ferrari in GTE, and strongly considering to kind of make a move away from my dream and goal, which was obviously Formula One. But then towards the first test of the Formula 2 season, like literally a week before the first test, it still all kind of came together, and with help from Ricardo Galal, I managed to turn up at the first kind of test in Formula 2. Rapax at the time was very committed to have me in the team, and they really helped to make that happen. But it was only a third of the budget, and I knew it was kind of going to be tough to end the season. It was really a surviving year, really. But it put me in a position to be with Prema the following year, which was a good season. I think if it was not for a few of my own mistakes, we would have been able to finish P2 or P3. I think we had very good pace. We won a good amount of races, but I just made a little bit too expensive mistakes, especially in Formula 2 when you have the feature and sprint race.
It can ruin a weekend.
It can ruin a weekend. And 2 times we were fighting for the win, and we crashed fighting for the win. And that means, you basically, lose 2 weekends. And then the top 3, George, Lando and Alex promoted to Formula 1, and I finished 4th and didn't. And in all honesty, I just look at myself because I feel like it was my own kind of mistake that I wasn't able to score more points. I think we definitely had the pace and we had more wins than people in front of us, but I just lost too many points in situations wherein we were actually able to score big points. But luckily ART and myself got back together to kind of get a revanche on our year in 16 in GP3, and then it all came together. We won the championship, and Mercedes was at the time building a new team in Formula E. I moved away from McLaren because I didn't really see it was leading to anything, even if I would win Formula 2. And then I started, doing some simulator work at Mercedes, and that's how our kind of working relationship started, and that's how I ended up in Formula E.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you were able to identify that you yourself made mistakes in your second year in Formula 2 that cost you a top 3 finish. And so how did you sort of change that in your following year once you joined ART and win the championship?
So my first season, as I explained, for me was not a real season. That was not, I didn't have a real chance to fight for anything. It was all about surviving and just making sure I stay alive in kind of single-seater racing, which we succeeded. And then my second year, which was actually my first kind of real year I was able to fight for something, I felt like I just put too much, not necessarily pressure on myself, but I didn't deal well enough with the pressure from let's say the team, because I was with Prema. They just won 2 championships with Pierre and Charles, and their expectations were just to win and dominate. And I recall a moment which I already shared with Pyry, that in Bahrain, after the first quali, we were P4, which, in Formula 2, if you are in top 7, you're always good because you have a feature race, a sprint race. It's all about consistency. And I got back to the team, and they literally told me, if we lose the championship for this pole, it's your fault.
Jeez.
And
no pressure.
And that just got me. And that kind of, that was the environment, it was at the time. And I just didn't deal with that well enough. In Baku, race 1, I was fighting with George for the win. And after the safety car restart, I kind of went for it. And we both went off, didn't score any points, instead of finishing second or first feature race. And I was too scared to come back to the garage. I literally left into the town and just went to cry on a little bench in the middle of Baku. And I texted my trainer at the time, basically asking when they needed me back. And I just left for like 1.5 hours because I was too scared to get back. And that kind of internal pressure, I didn't deal with it well enough. And I addressed that. I realized it, and then moving towards AAT, we obviously talked a lot about my experience, what I've gone through, and I think they were very supportive, and we were very focused on scoring points. Whereas in 2018, it was all about winning rather than winning a championship. It was just about winning, and of course, it is all about winning. But to win a championship, you need to be consistent up there.
You saw the bigger picture now. Yeah. So Formula 2 finishes, you're a champion, but there's no F1 seat available. So you go off and you start racing multiple different categories. You hit European Le Mans, Formula E, World Champion, and 24 Hours of Le Mans as well.
Yeah, even WEC a little bit. Yeah, actually in 2018, I already started to race a little bit in WEC. So in my year with Prema in Formula 2. I personally believe in driving. Like in our sport, we don't really race or don't really drive. We only get to race during race weekends, but outside race weekends, we don't actually, exercise our sport. In any other sport, they are practicing every day on the court, every day on the pitch. And that was just something that I was missing. So I believed in kind of diversifying, driving multiple cars to be driving. And I think that helped me to become a more complete driver. It also helped to change my approach and perspective a little bit, because I've always been a very much of a perfectionist and want everything to be perfect or go into a lot of detail. And in endurance racing, it's always a compromise because you're with 3 drivers. Starting from the seating position, it's a compromise. The setup, the balance, the decisions, the strategy. It's not all about you. It's about the best team result. And I think that helped me to learn and see the big picture and to focus on whatever brings performance and not to get lost in unnecessary details that don't really do anything.
What would you say you enjoyed more, like sports car racing, or do you like the open wheeled? I would call Formula E open wheeled, right?
Oh yes, single seat. Yeah. Well, I like to be challenging and demanding, and I wouldn't settle for just either of them. I would always want a combination of both because I really love both championships, but I think what endurance racing doesn't provide is the pressure. The pressure to deliver in that single moment. And I think as a racing driver, you need to feel that pressure consistently to remain on top of your game. In endurance racing, it's all about your averages and being consistently quick, which is good. But I think it's important to continue to feel that pressure to chase that edge all the time. Otherwise, over time, you just get slower. On the other hand, in single-seater racing, or at least in Formula E, you don't do that many events, and the events are quite short. On top of that, the cars are not very fast. So I think you miss some of the real racing sensations. So I wouldn't be able to choose, and I would always try to do a combination of both.
Okay, so fast forward to Monza 2022. Alex Albon becomes sick, and you step in as the reserve driver, having only done just a handful of practice sessions with various teams throughout the year. How did that come about? Like, was it a late call-up? And then what was the story from then on? Because, like, you weren't exactly fully prepared for that. I mean, they can't even change the car enough for you for that weekend, correct? That's right, that's a microphone.
Yeah, so I was in Monza anyway. To give you a little bit more background story, there was a WEC race in Fuji that weekend. And I had an opportunity to race for a team which would provide me, an opportunity to fight for the victory. And actually, I was very keen to go to Fuji because I would be racing, and I knew that going to Monza, I wouldn't be racing. Well,
in theory, on paper, you're not racing.
On paper, I'm not racing. But obviously, we had committed to several FP1s, and it just happened to be a better allocation for everyone for me to do the Monza FP1 with Aston. So instead of racing in Fuji, I was doing the FP1 with Aston, which was obviously great as well. And then on the Saturday morning, Friday night, I was very relaxed. I went down to Mercedes after my FP1, stayed until midnight at the track with the engineers, just chatting about their FP1, chatting about my FP1, and went back to the hotel. Mind you, normally I'm always in bed by latest 10:30, sleeping at 11. Worst case.
Yeah.
So
it's a work weekend.
It's a work weekend. So that evening, I was super relaxed. Like, kind of my weekend is done. I did my FP1, chilling. Come to the track the next morning, and I had a paddock club appearance at like 10:30, and it was still quite empty. So rather than speaking in front of a crowd, I just went to sit with some guests, ordered a cappuccino, and then James Vowles rings up and says, "Yeah, can you come down to the Mercedes office? You might be racing for Williams." And I was like, I just couldn't understand what he just said. I thought he was talking about, the future, like maybe the following season or I don't know what. I just didn't get it. It's like, no. Like, there's something happening. You might be racing. I was like, okay, I'll come down. So I was obviously fully hyped and nervous at the same time. Went down to Mercedes. All the engineers are like cheering for me. I was like, calm down, guys. Let's just hold on a second. Walk down to Williams, understand what the problem was. Sadly, Alex was brought into hospital overnight because of appendicitis, and then it wasn't sure whether I was going to race or not. But like 20 minutes later, in the pre-FP3 meeting, it kind of became clear that I was going to the weekend, and from that moment, I didn't left the engineering office and the garage. So
we know the story there. You have a successful debut in Formula One. You finish in the points. And I guess it's kind of fast forwards to our story where it doesn't take too long to get on the Red Bull radar and sign with AlphaTauri for 2023. How did that come about? Because I think there are stories that maybe Max told you to even call Dr. Marco.
Yeah, we had dinner together on the Monday night to kind of celebrate his win and celebrate my debut. So it was nice to kind of share that moment with him, and we obviously talked about the future and opportunities. And I think the most important what I took away from that dinner was that I was still very much perceived publicly as a Mercedes driver, which I was up until the end of 22. And I think it was important for me to clarify that I was I was part of Mercedes until the end of 22. So I think it was good for me to kind of basically make my situation clear,
make the right noises to the right people,
in order to not basically miss out on potential opportunities, and that's how it went.
So was there a call, or
yeah, and then later that week I ended up traveling to Austria.
Meet with the big bosses and impress them in person as well.
I tried.
Pyry, you've been silent now. You're going to move on.
Sorry for my long talk. I'm too old. That's why my journey has been so long.
Yeah, that's good. Makes for interesting listening.
I mean, that's exactly the particular thing about Nyck, which helped me to get up to speed. That you can see that he's well educated in the field of motorsport. I would say he's done a pretty big master degree in motorsport before coming to F1, and that really has helped me as well to get up to speed quickly. He hasn't done a university, but I really feel like he's very well educated in the world of motorsport.
So we're going to move on now to a bit more of your side of the story. This is a new relationship for you. It's kind of like a new beginning. So yeah, not only is there a new driver, but it's a new sort of performance coach athlete relationship, like I just mentioned. So just to give you a bit of an intro yourself, you trained Pierre for about 5 years, since 2017, since he entered the sport. And now you've got a new challenge ahead of you in preparing Nyck for his first Formula One season. So if you want to tell us a bit about your background before we get into the relationship of you coaching Nyck.
So, the funny thing is that like when I started with Pierre, I was thinking like, I wish I knew this 2014 when I started with Danny.
So let's go back then. You came into Formula One the same time Danny Kvyat did.
Yes, and it was like a dip in the deep ocean because I was coming from a different sport.
Yeah, which was
ice hockey.
Yeah,
I was a striving athlete. I think I was a better athlete than an ice hockey player after all. Like I really called myself as a failed athlete afterwards. And then I think the drive for coaching for me started by willing to understand what went wrong. So quite selfish.
But that just
exactly
produces.
But then when I matured, then I started understanding that actually I can really really help these youngsters to not to repeat the same mistakes, and that led me to coaching in ice hockey first, and then. There's a lot to thank to Antti Vierola, who is the coach for Bottas. We used to live in the same town in a sport institute where we were studying, working, and being an athlete. So, and he hinted about me to Aki Hintsa, my former boss at Hintsa Performance, and that's where everything started. Really by coincidence. There was really never the plan to be in motorsport, but it's been a happy coincidence for the last 10 years now. This is my 10th year.
You're classified as a veteran now.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, when I started with Nyck, I thought the same thing. Like I wish I knew what I know now 5 years ago.
Well, so, that was leading into my next question because you jumped into the deep end with Danny.
Yes.
You both
very
knew.
much.
He's an up and comer. You've seen this kind of athlete before in ice hockey.
Yeah.
So you need to sort of adapt your learnings from your past into Formula One.
And I must say, like, it took me because I really think that the world of motorsport is a very unique sport, which is very diversified elements of human performance, and also like the dynamics in motorsport is very different to many other traditional field-based sports, for example, because you have so many different type of stakeholders. So it really took me quite a while to get on top of my game to understand what this sport is all about. After all, that's where everything starts.
So you mentioned it's different. You yourself were different when you started the sport. Now, 10 years later, you're a different person.
Very much.
What would you tell yourself 10 years ago? What advice would you give yourself 10 years ago in training athletes? Because you've seen multiple athletes come and go, and you've also been in the sport for 10 years. What's changed?
You know, I think at the start I wasn't very confident because it was such an like unknown field for me. I thought first that like, what can I actually do here? Like
the paddock also is daunting. There's a lot of people around who are been there a long time.
Exactly. So I think I would have just really been like boosting myself. Like you really got this. You know, you really have the tools for helping these athletes. And but like I said, like I always say, you can't buy experience. Simple as that. The skills comes first before the experience.
So you're putting it down to the...
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everyone needs time to mature, and nowadays everyone is so young that everyone is expected to be ready, you know, at a very young age. But ultimately, everyone is fast. But to be consistently successful and performing requires different assets, and I think those assets partly come with experience.
So you touched on it before. Your longest period was with Pierre, and it was a successful one.
Yep.
And now you've come to a mutual ending after he's signed his new chapter with Alpine, and you're staying with us.
Yes. So obviously,
we're happy.
I'm super happy for Pierre for getting his next chapter, and I'm really looking forward to see how he's gonna excel there. I'm sure he's got the toolkit to succeed. At the same time, you know, it was a good timing for both of us to take a new challenge, and now we have a new exciting talent, well-educated talent.
Yes, we've seen.
You know.
But I wanted to touch on that.
Never went to school.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it. Just to touch on this, from your side, obviously a conversation has to happen.
Yes.
And I guess, you know, you can see that there's a new challenge ahead of you, and he's already had his. He's going to a new team, new car and everything. Do you just sort of both agree, saying, you know what, I think we both know I've taken you enough, far enough. I personally need to redevelop my motivation for someone different, and I believe I can help someone more. Does it sort of land in that kind of area?
You know, I think we both had time to think about it. Like what direct, you know, like I think that the change was somewhat unexpected. Some way
it did come a bit quick after the whole
so
Lonzo leaving,
so that kind of gave an opportunity, like do we go left or do we go right, or and it kind of started, you know, molding in the heads, but it really happened naturally.
That's good to hear though.
Like that now it's a good time to look right and you left.
Yeah.
But I think, and what's the best, we both remain as a good friends.
I was just going to say, the relationship is far from over because he's still messaging you and being competitive as ever, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I met him in Dubai and he said, you know what, I saw the Nyck deadlifting. It got me so motivated. You know, next day I went to the gym and he hit big numbers. And what it did to me, I couldn't sleep all night, you know. And then, you know, next morning I felt like very tired, and then I remembered, bling bling. That's what he said. I got up like a grenade.
Yeah. So even without being there, you're still affecting his performance whilst training.
Yeah,
whilst training is good. So how do you implement this competitiveness into your own lifestyle and training drivers? Is it something that you help fuel their hunger, or do you have to manage it in a way?
I would almost land it to Nyck. How do you feel it? How does it transfer? Or do you feel it? Or
I think Pyry is the kind of, without flattering him too much, but
he's already had a lot of compliments today.
Yeah, but Pyry also wants to be the best in his field and at his job. So he wants to be the best coach, but he also wants to be the fittest coach. And I think having that mindset and that approach automatically translates to the athlete, because it sets a kind of example. And I think every athlete is different. Everyone is, we talked about this earlier today, actually. Everyone is different. Everyone has different skills, different qualities, different weaknesses. So you walk your own path, but those kind of values still remain very important. But then I think everyone achieves them in a slightly different way. So someone might be very driven by the pure competitiveness, or someone else have something else that drives them. And I think Pyry is really good at reading the athlete and the person who he's working with to address how to kind of make the most, or how to take the most out of them.
You know, because ultimately I always say it's not about what I think is right. It's about how do we get the most out of the athletes. And naturally I could say that I'm pretty damn competitive person in myself.
It must help.
Yeah, you know, like I have the athlete mindset. The only thing what's a big difference is it's not about me anymore. It's about them.
But it's good that you have that background, because that's probably what's fueling this competitiveness.
Yes, absolutely. And I must say, when I did the transition, this actually took me quite some time to understand that it wasn't about me anymore. It was about someone else. And that's what we are here for. To get you really like maximize their potential, and that's actually what also drives me, pushing the limits and getting a little bit crazy at times, right?
He's not afraid to push the boundaries.
So I've heard. So I'm happy to hear that you're both incredibly competitive, because you're both very fit and you're both strong mentally. I hope. I assume. I want to put both of these attributes to the tests. So we're going to go down the hall to the gym, and I want to challenge the two of you, both mentally and physically, with one simple challenge. You guys up for it?
I'll have a little bit of Red Bull then.
You might need it.
I might take a little bigger sip.
Yeah. You guys fuel yourselves up, and we'll pick the challenge up from the company gym. Okay, guys, we've moved to the company gym just down the hall. We're going to do a fitness challenge, and I want to see essentially, Nyck, how successful the training camp was.
You're putting a lot of on this.
It all comes down to this. Don't.
Nothing else matters.
Now, basically, from kind of putting the pressure on me, you're putting it all on Pyry.
It's pressure for both of you.
Am I supposed to win or lose then?
Look, I don't know. Be competitive. We talk about being competitive now.
You can only win. Because if you lose, it means you did a good job with me.
Yes.
If you win, you show that you're still the Terminator.
And I can sleep well.
And you can sleep well. So basically, you win always.
And you keep your job, because you need to continue.
Really time today.
So essentially, it's a small, quick challenge, but it's going to test both your physical strength and your mentality strength, your mental strength. So, you're familiar with a wall sit?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So we're going to do a wall sit, and we're going to play the word association game.
Okay.
So I'll start you off the word.
Yeah.
The last letter of that word, you'll have to find another word to associate with. Uh-huh. And the topic will be motorsport, just to make it a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
So just to give you an example.
It was already difficult.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right?
And
you guys are professionals.
How do we know how do we win?
I'll be the judge of how quick you respond to the words.
Yeah.
But as you know, wall sits are not that easy.
No.
So whoever fails the wall sit first, or whoever misses a word, I'm going to give you maybe 5 seconds to think of a word.
Okay.
I think, is that fair?
5 seconds.
I think he knows everything about motorsport. This is not fair at all.
Oh, you got bigger quads.
Yeah.
Deal.
So just as an example for everyone listening, we could start with a food topic. The first word could be banana, and you could say apple, because it's ended in A.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but we're doing motorsport.
So the last letter has to be
Continued on to the new word.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Start with Nyck.
Is that when okay, I will start with the word, and then yes, Nyck, you can start next. Yeah. So, we all ready? We're limbered. All right, let's get into a squat hold, a wall sit. We're 90 degrees. Nyck, a bit further. Let's get 90. All right, I think we're good. 3, 2, 1. The first word is circuit. Nyck, go.
Circuit. Track.
So what do you mean?
K. I'll go. Kinematics.
So it's just any word.
Yeah. No, related to motorsport.
Okay. What did
You know, this is all his strategy. He kills me before we even start. Like, what the hell? I think he should be -2 already.
Yeah, Pyry, you're in the back foot. Come on, all right. Let's think of a word starting with S related to motorsport. Let's go.
S.
S. Speed? No, I'm kidding.
Speed works.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Delta.
Aerodynamics.
Pardon?
Aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics. Slow.
Oh, that's a quite difficult one.
W.
World Championship.
I'll take that.
World Championship.
We're looking for P.
P. I was going to say Patrick Pink.
Right, there's an easy one here.
Here. Pirelli.
Good one.
Imola.
Oh.
Now I start.
Now you start to get into the rhythm.
Yeah.
And now I'm basically minor.
How are the quads feeling, guys?
Yeah.
Pyry seems like he's on a holiday.
Yeah. Alpha Tauri.
Perfect.
I'll give you 5 seconds, and if you don't have one, I go now. 1, 2, 3.
Hey guys, a very quick 5 seconds.
5.
I was very
IndyCar.
Yeah, IndyCar, exactly.
Okay, Nyck has jumped off the wall. He's running around the gym. Okay, Pyry, come on, you can get up now. So we've got a clear definition here. We've got a good mentality here to deal with the pain, but also think of motorsport related. Okay, yes, you've grown up with motorsport all your life, but it just shows that the physical aspect is also important in this challenge.
Very much.
Who do you think won this?
I think
We drew.
I'm not used to think while I'm exercising.
No, you got up to speed, and it's unfair because it's motorsport related as well. So we drew.
We draw.
We drew.
You keep the happiness in the team.
You're making me doubt your competitiveness, guys, but I'll take it. All right, let's continue this back in the studio.
Cool. Cool. Thank you.
So, now that we're fully warmed up and we've put the body and the mind to the test, Pyry, I'm going to start this one with you. What do you think is your biggest weakness, like physical and mental?
Ouch.
Yeah, it's not all. It's not all.
Where do we start?
Yeah. Oh, so Nyck's got some ideas.
I must admit that the ego is a devil at times. You know,
okay.
Sometimes it takes the mind a little bit running far. That comes partly, I guess, with this competitive mindset that it's just the drive just overdrives. You know, it's sometimes, you know, your emotional part of drain is.
And what is it? To what kind of mistakes or failures does that weakness lead you to? Because I guess that's the question for people to relate.
What does it hurt? How does it hurt you in your life, and how do you overcome it?
The fact is that we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? And many times our strengths becomes our weaknesses when they start over dominating, right?
I personally think that's my biggest strength is equally my biggest weakness. Managing your strength, but not overdoing it, is something that I've addressed and learned over the years. But obviously, you still risk to sometimes, you know, make mistakes. But kind of managing that is probably my biggest challenge to avoid making mistakes.
And what is your biggest weakness? What are you classifying that as?
I think my commitment and determination, but also my perfectionism is a great asset and a strength, but equally a weakness. Because when you go too far, you lose focus and you get lost in the kind of detail, and that's when you aren't able to kind of focus, but also to basically your will is paralyzing your intuition and your talent and your feeling, because racing is still very much about feeling and intuition. So when you're in the car, you got to be free. Your mind got to be free to, drive with your feeling. And if you are too keen, and if you want it too much, and you just overdo things, and you're overthinking, then that is paralyzing your feeling, and then obviously that's hurting your performance.
So relating that back to the common man who's not a racing driver, that could just be as simple as overthinking everything that you do in your everyday life, whether it be work, whether it be holding relationships, bringing the perfectionism into it. You're overthinking everything, and then it's affecting how you're performing in your job or hanging around with people.
And I could really relate to Nyck when I was younger. I was always overthinking. I was really afraid of doing mistakes. After I realized that I'm doing shitloads of mistakes. So
Everyone makes them.
So I just gotta get on with it.
Yeah.
And
But the challenging bit is equally, if you look at a lot of successful people in different industries, I think the attention to detail is something that also pops out in many of them. So that's why the balance is so, fine. When you look at the last dance of Michael Jordan, he was hammering the details of his teammates to push everyone to the limit non-stop. But, he was a machine and is a living legend. But that balance is very fine, because you got to be, demanding, and you got to be pushing all areas to basically, be successful. But if you go too far, then it can be going against you.
That's very true, because after all, having the strength at paying attention to detail is a pure strength. After all, on the other hand, it's the thing is that when you're executing your skills, that's almost like subconscious. There's a lot of autonomy and efficiency. If you're thinking every action of you doing, you're creating delay.
Yeah,
and in sport, there's a lot about timing. So it's a really fine line, like Nyck is
Balancing
recalling.
the strengths and weaknesses and identifying where you're going right and wrong.
Yeah, sometimes you would say being more aware is going to help you. On the other hand, sometimes the over-awareness can also be a devil.
And just for fun, humor me, because people need to know you're both not perfect. So what is your biggest physical weakness?
Stiff.
Stiff? Just stiff. Your nobility, flexibility, not really there. I can relate. I'm 6'4", and it's for a tall man just tying up my shoes. I get it.
Sometimes with the racket sports, I never really mastered
the coordination.
The hit. I was just running like a rabbit around, just super excited because I was always quite fit. But really, really to master the forehand or the backhand, and I always sucked. Not like big time.
You got competitive with Pierre towards the end.
I mean, we were quite equal. Yeah. I would say Pierre was winning a little bit more often than me, but
it's okay. He's probably not going to listen to this, so you can say you want more. It's
fine. In all honesty, doing a lot of different activities, I basically brutally realized that I have very little talents other than driving around in circles. So I better be, good at this and making the most of it, because I certainly wouldn't been a tennis or a football player.
And how do you have any goals to improve yourself on any of these little sports, or it's just not really worth your time at the moment?
I definitely enjoy activity and playing other sports. But I think if we summarize our chat in the past 45 minutes, it's also definitely been about, focusing on the priorities and
of course
picking your battles. I think it's probably a quote or a sentence people can relate to. I'm not going to be worried about, losing a tennis match. What is that bringing me anywhere in my sport today, in where I want to succeed in? But equally, other battles that I think are important for my performance on track, I will fight very hard. But I don't need to be, the top striker of Man United or being playing at the Australian Open. I'll watch the athletes or the legends do their job, but I focus on mine.
Yeah, I must turn the gesture to Nyck. Like one of his strengths is the learning capability, and I always say it's not what's not important how good you are now. What's important how good you can become. So we picked up boxing in our off-season camp, and he was learning really, really quick. And so I think that's a real strength of Nyck as well.
So when you're starting with a new driver, obviously part of your job is to identify strengths and weaknesses. What are the first steps starting with like a complete fair playing field with a new athlete?
Yeah, you would split it between professional and personal. Like personally, you actually just start to getting know each other, and what is the basis for it is trust and respect, and trust and respect is not given, it's earned. So it's really about learning how him as a personality. Then professionally, you start profiling them. You start looking those different elements of human performance, and you start building the athlete profile. And then you compare it to actual sports. So and then because you always gonna fight with the time. So what are the key areas? How many elements we are focusing on in the next stage? Mm-hmm. What are the most important ones? Again, we come what Nyck said. What's the most important things for him to excel in his sport?
And then you start, I guess, creating a structure with this.
Absolutely.
And so I guess, this can be related back to our fans listening. How do you get into good habits? Like you need to structure a plan about for Nyck, but just about everyday life. How do you structure good habits? Like, do you have a good piece of advice that you keep for yourself that helps you to grow, to reach fitness and mental goals?
Yeah, I always say you have to create a system around you. It's something very simple that is just very repeatable.
Okay, but how do I take the first step of creating this system?
Show up. Show up.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it's sounds maybe it's not maybe encouraging to hear, but it all starts with you. You need to want it. It's ultimately a decision to wake up in the morning to make yourself a healthy breakfast rather than no breakfast or a quick unhealthy one. It's still your decision to maybe wake up earlier prior work to go to the gym or to go to the gym after work. And of course there are long days and there are thousands of excuses to think of to not do it, but to turn up and to make the decision to do it is ultimately the only way to to progress and to
hit those goals.
Hit those goals, exactly, yeah.
I would say, like, if we go a little bit deeper on it, like why many people struggle with it,
mm-hmm.
they lacking the purpose. Why am I showing up there?
So you need to set a goal first.
You need to have the purpose. That's even a little bit deeper than a goal, because goal can be like lose 5-10 kilos. Purpose is why am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? For myself.
So you need a purpose and a reason before you hit the goal. Then you need to show up.
Actually, that's like, I would say, when you have a strong purpose, then it likely becomes a sustainable one.
Because then it's easy. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice or a must do. You know why you want to do it, so you turn up.
It should be part of your lifestyle, ingrained. It shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah, like I always say, is that being fit mentally or physically is not a destination. It's a lifestyle, way of living.
So to put it into a nice little neat package, what are some healthy life tips that you incorporate into like your day that anyone can do themselves to help with their productivity or even help to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have little top tips?
Maybe start tracking some of your activities, your sleep, your activity. I think it can be quite motivating to see what you're doing, because it's a kind of reference for you where you are, but also to kind of have a reference to improve from.
And people are motivated by numbers. They're motivated by seeing results. So that's probably a good one of just writing down where you started and where you're going on this journey. I mean, I was looking for something as simple.
Well, no, but simple like a phone. You can track your steps, you can track your sleep, and just starting to look at those numbers and comparing them with your friends to see what they do is already in a kind of playing way, helping you to get better at those lifestyle targets.
And Pyry, what have you got for us? Mine was going to be something as simple as, when I wake up, I have 500 milliliters of water. Sets me up for the day. What my body hasn't had water.
Straight?
Yeah, I mean, I can scale it
Half a
sometimes.
liter.
Yeah, just quick. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's my, I know my body hasn't had anything going into it for 8 or 9 hours, maybe more. Started off with some water.
For me, I've done like deals within myself, that are just non-negotiable.
Pyry is making deals with the devil, i.e. himself. But okay, yeah, continue. Sorry for that.
like for me, exercising, there's so many days that I don't feel like going to work out. But, it's just non-negotiable. It's part of my way of living. I just get it done. And I just build the priorities in my day, what I want to achieve in my day. I want to eat a good breakfast.
Just to be the advocate of the devil here, I mean, it's obviously also your lifestyle to be the best coach and trainer there is. And it's obviously being a trainer, it's part of your life.
Yes.
So I guess
there are many other people that have
the average Joe,
normal jobs, and they have many other things to worry about, and they don't have the time and flexibility to just suddenly, take 1 hour away from that day for physical activity. So how do you encourage them to look after themselves?
That's a question for you, Pyry.
I look at you. Obviously, I know. It's fair to pass the ball on to Pyry.
I always been trying to follow the motto that be the best you. And if that doesn't motivate you enough, you have your loved ones. Be the best for them.
That's deep.
That's deep, yeah.
Guys, we're almost out of time. So just before we wrap this up, I want to know just 3 things, your goals for 2023. So looking ahead, what would you consider a successful first season together? It doesn't have to be results driven. Just what do you expect from this year?
I would say already, for me, this part of getting ready for the season was one of the main goals already for the year. Is really make Nyck confident and ready to jump in a car and go through having the resilience and the performance over the season. And then this was one of the main goals for me for the season already. Make him robust, resilient, and motivated.
Yeah, I think the year is almost built up in blocks, and in each block has a kind of goal and target. And I think the past months we obviously very much lived towards the start of the Formula One season, and the biggest kind of part of that preparation was our physical preparation, and we've invested a lot of time and effort into that. I think we've done very well. I feel very ready. I think we are ready, and now we'll have to start building kind of towards the new goals. Soon we'll be out in the car for the first time for a private test. We'll have a Pirelli tire test, and then we go out to Bahrain for the first time to try the new car. And then I think from there on we will learn where we are and what we need to do to become more competitive. But to talk a little bit in numbers, obviously we hope to be competitive enough to be consistently fighting in the points. That's what we're all here for, and I think that's what we should be striving for.
And just to make this a little bit more difficult, but to finish off, how will you measure this success? You've already sort of told me yours, Pyry, of a pre-season structure and just getting him mostly prepared for a tough 23 races. But how do you measure this success?
I mean, it's not that easy because there's a lot of unknowns. It's a first season for Nyck, and there will be highs and there will be lows. And there will a lot of learning and steep learning curve. But I'm super excited about this upcoming season, and I'm very, very confident. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to those both highs and lows, because those both ends are teaching us a lot.
And Nyck, just finally, how would you measure your first year in F1? How do you want to see yourself come Abu Dhabi?
Well, I think we can give a very nice, long, politically correct answer, but I've learned in racing that ultimately everything comes down to performance, and the only way our performance is really measured is obviously through results and the stopwatch ultimately. However, being realistic and having taken that in account, there are a lot of factors that play into that final outcome. But how is it measured? How is it measured? Obviously through the classification.
You're right. At the end, it always just comes down to the leaderboards, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say like having a consistent season, being able to execute the performance out from you is the main target.
Yeah.
So we'll put it down to consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
That's how we measure it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all the time that we have for today's show. Many thanks once again to Nyck and Pyry for coming in and giving us their valuable time during a busy pre-season. Guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Real pleasure.
Pleasure was mine. For everyone listening at home, make sure you subscribe to Tauri Talk on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and listen back to all the previous episodes as much as you want. Plus, you'll get all the episodes as they drop, so what's not to like? Until next time, it's bye for now.